Hello and welcome to the Extreme Cinema Podcast with me, Alexander Sternberg, and Dom Loach. How you been, Dom?
I've been great. How are you, Stenny?
I'm good. I think the film today needs absolutely no introduction.
No, it's the most well-known of this type of film ever. I'd probably give it that accolade.
I think definitely so. Definitely so. I mean, it is the horror artifact for millennials. I think if you're between the ages of 35 and 20, you are very familiar with these films.
Yep.
So we are of course talking about Saw.
I was going to say, do you want to reveal what it is?
No, it needs no introduction.
It needs zero introduction. Here's an introduction.
Literally zero introduction.
But yeah, we're talking about Saw.
So, I mean, I haven't watched this for years, and it was really interesting rewatching it because it is quite a good film. I don't know if it quite holds up. It feels very much in place of a kind of early to mid 2000s film, and it is a bit shoddy, but it's quite a good film.
Yeah, when was the last time you say you'd watched it?
It could have been 5 years ago, if not a bit longer.
Oh.
Honestly, I don't know.
Wow. I think...
It's been ages.
Yeah, I think I saw it not too long ago. It was like a year or two just for me. So watching it again, I kind of did know how it was going to be. Like, I knew it didn't quite hold up like it used to, because when I first saw this was like mind-blowing. Like, this was ridiculous.
Oh my god, when I first saw this was the most intense thing I'd ever seen in my life. Like, I think quite probably the tension, which is still there, still massive, in like the kind of last chase sequence was just like, I hadn't seen anything like that when I first saw this.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just fucking iconic. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, so many lines and so many characters.
That's the thing, and I want to talk more about that later. That sort of every 5 minutes in this film, it was just like triggering a memory, not just a memory of me watching this film, but a memory of like Saw in the general pop culture. Because for 10 years, this was like the most omnipresent thing in horror. Full stop.
Oh yeah, for ages, weren't it?
I think we should start with the filmmaking first. And, I mean, low budget, 1.2 million, grossed 103 million. Oh, shot in 18 days, you know, it's a first film, which I've noticed there's a trend of a lot of the stuff we're talking about. A lot of first films are these kind of big statement movies, very intense, very provocative. And it is, for all intents and purposes, quite a good sort of stripped-down, nasty thriller. It has a lot of problems, but at the end of the day, it's a very watchable film.
Oh yeah, it's incredibly watchable. Like, it's like you said, it is like a stripped back thriller for all of this like extreme gore and everything that it has. Like, when this first came out,
most of it's two guys talking in a room.
Exactly. And like when this first came out, I remember everybody talking about it, how it's this extreme film that's like so messed up, and like it made people pass out, as these films always get.
That's the thing, because I'm a couple years younger than you. I wasn't really aware of Saw 1, but certainly by 3, people in the playground were talking. No one had, I believe very few people who claimed to see this movie until the age of, let's say, 11 had actually seen it, but it got just normal people talking. I remember when I first watched it, right, thinking, okay, Carrie Elves and Danny Glover are pretty good and everyone else kind of sucks, but I gotta say, I think they kind of suck too now.
Yeah, they're not amazing, are they? Like,
they're better. I mean, there's a reason they didn't bring back Lee Whannell's character in the sequels, even though they probably could have been like, oh, he survived. He's such a bad actor, like, from the very start, he's so bad.
Yeah, he's literally just from that. He's literally just in flashbacks into. So he's not amazing. Like,
no, he's Adam.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and he's just in flashbacks in the other ones. Is what I'm saying.
Oh, he's just in flashbacks in the other movies.
Yeah.
But like even Cary Elwes, he's like fine. He's like giving a serviceable horror performance. Like Danny Glover is like chewing the scenery. Like the script is so full of like cop movie cliches. It's insane.
Oh yeah, it's like the I'm too old for this shit. And like it's such a Danny Glover performance. It's amazing. Like
the like obsessed detective when he's sort of walking about the flat he's spying on them in like really poor ADR, being like, oh, I'll catch him one day. Like the whole thing, and even when it's like, you know, the cops are interrogating him because they found his pen and whatnot, it's just like, it feels a bit like a kind of episode of Criminal Minds.
yeah, it definitely does. Like all of the police stuff is incredibly hokey and like not as serious, but then it's a Saw film, and I guess the first one is actually incredibly serious, whereas the rest of them are utterly fucking insane. Like go off the deep end on another level.
Two tries to keep this tone, but yeah, they go off the deep end. That's the thing, because I think the writing's cliched, but the actual storytelling is really quite good. The way like it trusts the audience to be able to follow this very not even non-linear, but there's sort of multiple timelines going on at once, being told simultaneously, and it trusts the audience to piece it together. And it's quite clever writing in that regard. The actual dialogue is dumb, but the storytelling is quite clever.
Yeah, it is, and it's the only Saw as well that does the good twist, like because they became known.
Oh God, yeah,
they became known for their twists, and because of this film, I guess. Like
we'll get into the specifics of the sequels at the end. I mean, we'll just go full spoilers for the whole franchise. I mean, there isn't a person who hasn't seen Saw who wants to see Saw out there anyhow. And don't even bother with the sequels if you've not. Like, you've missed the boat on this as a franchise, frankly, if you've not got on this already.
Yeah, it has had a little resurgence recently, I guess.
Yeah, with Spiral.
Yeah, which I've still not seen Spiral. But
same. You know what else is quite good on the filmmaking aspect? Before we just go for the directing, is the music. Again, iconic, but like it's got a really good score for a film for this low budget.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. I think it's because it's so low budget. Everything being kind of great is weird. Like it's so out there. Some of the stuff as well.
Yeah. And the directing is pretty competent. I mean, it's so like 2000s hyperkinetic. All the quick shots.
Oh yeah, do you know what it reminds me of? Do you know fucking
Edgar Wright?
Ang Lee's Hulk. It's so no.
Ang Lee's Hulk. Yeah. Oh God.
The editing.
Did you not mention Ang Lee's Hulk in this household, Dom?
But done well.
I was going to say the storytelling reminds me of Harakiri, actually.
Oh my God! Yeah, what a connection. Sorry's.
Didn't think I'd be making a comparison to that, did you?
It's just Sorry's Hulk and Harakiri combined. I don't think any other human has ever said that.
So what's Saw like? Well, it's a mix of Ang Lee's Hulk and Miyazaki Kobayashi's Harakiri.
We're just like, yes, I get it, yeah.
Oh, of course, it makes so much sense. I mean, there's just so much of an impact this had. I mean, like we were saying, pop culture, and it's not just some of the lines, but like the jigsaw puppet, the I want to play a game, the sword traps, the sound design, like the laughter on the tape recorder and stuff. It's just iconic, and every 5 minutes you watch this film and be like, oh my God, this was just in the pop culture zeitgeist at the time.
Exactly. It's insane, and it still is, isn't it? Like, you could say any of that. People who haven't even seen Saw know what the hell it is. It's insane. Like, it's one of the most iconic horror movies. It's up there with, like, things from The Exorcist and The Shining and stuff. It's absolutely insane.
Literally, I mean, what were the last horror big? Because there's like low rent horror stuff that can last 1 billion films, like Puppet Master or whatnot. But like, what was the last mainstream film to last this long? It was Friday 13th. Nothing's done it since Saw. Friday 13th, and what? Nightmare made it to 7 as well.
Yeah, that's about it.
It's just Friday 13th basically. Halloween did more.
Halloween's going again, isn't it? But
Oh, fuck, yeah. Yeah, because when I think of Laurie Strode, I want her to be fucking Sarah Connor.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted.
It was like, I mean, this had a ride at Thorpe Park that the queue for about the first 2 years of its opening was about 4 hours. Like, it was, that ride opening was such a big deal. And it's a very good ride.
It is. I've been on that as well. It's a very good ride.
And then they did the Saw Alive maze, which I never went on. I was always too scared.
Oh, I went to that. It was very fun. Terrifying.
Now when they've replaced that with like the Darren Brown Ghost Train, but like the Saw ride as well, it had the swinging axes. Like it's the only ride that people were like, "Hey, I want to sit at the back," because all the effects worked at the back and not really in the front.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what other horror franchises like this like had a house at Halloween Horror Nights in Universal like 10 fucking years in a row or some crazy stuff like that? It's insane.
I think Walking Dead is getting to that level now. I guess Walking Dead might be the equivalent of Saw in terms of pop culture, but it's a TV series.
Yeah, probably, actually. It is a good comparison.
There is a Walking Dead ride.
There is,
in
yeah.
Thorpe Park now, I believe. They replaced X, which is like, was always shit. I've never been on since The Walking Dead.
Wasn't that the Yumi at 6 ride? Oh no, that's the Swarm, isn't it? Like,
that's a Yumi at 6 ride?
yeah, that's a Yumi at 6 ride.
Whatever. Like,
just blew your mind with some.
I mean, yeah, completely. I had no idea. I've been on that like once. I haven't been to Thorpe Park in ages. Like, I mean, we're talking about the bad acting. There's one good actor, and he's barely in it, and it's Tobin Bell.
It is Tobin Bell. He's the only person in every single Saw film. He's obsessed with that role.
It's like every other horror franchise, how the first film's not really about the villain, and then suddenly it becomes all about the villain. Like, you know, Nightmare, Friday, Halloween. Like, he's such a small part of this. I mean, the big twist, which is fantastic, of the dead body getting up the wall, off the floor, it's incredible. That's sort of like that, and he's in a hospital bed at one point, and in a hoodie at one point running away. That's sort of it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with the first one is you're trying to guess who it is for a while as well, aren't you? Whereas in the others, is in it so much more.
And no one will ever successfully do it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, it's in it much more after that, because obviously everybody knows who the hell it is now. Like,
and what I love as well is that, like, you know, he dies at the end of the third film, but they need to contrive reasons to keep putting him back in. So, like, the timeline just goes... I mean, the timeline is off the rails by the third film, but the timeline is even more off the rails after. And I've only seen up to 4, but I've read the synopses of all of them, and it just sounds unbearable after
I have watched them all. Like, and the fact he's in 4 films after he dies is utterly insane. Like, 4 mainline as well. Because then you've got...
What they're going to have at the end of Spiral, like him doing Ring of Fire or something, and it got cut.
I think so, yeah. There's just his voice in Spiral, isn't there, doing something now. Like,
it's so ridiculous. I mean, god damn, these sequels, I mean... Like, 2 is kind of more of the same, but, like, less of an impact, really. Like, it's just like a kind of standard second horror film. It's, like, bad, but not, like, terrible.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of did the classic Saw thing of just getting worse and worse as it slowly went along. Like,
it's got the needle trap, which is a fantastic scene, but then the twist at the end is, like, not only really easy to call, but it's dumb.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think that's the thing, the twists.
And then they got stuck with Amanda as the villain.
Yeah, the twists just get dumber and dumber as well. And it's like, the first one was so good. Him getting up was amazing. That blew my mind. Like,
if Saw 3 was a good film, that would have been an okay twist, because the twist is it's at the same time as Saw 2.
Yes, yeah, because that's the guy going through.
It's an awful film now.
Yeah, that's the guy whose kid gets killed, so Jigsaw's like, you're too depressed that your child died. You have to get over it. Like,
they can't even find reasons at the end for this stuff. Like, I feel like the marketing team, because we should talk about the marketing, just fucking astroturfed into existence this debate on, is Jigsaw really a murderer? You know, is he got a point? No, he obviously doesn't have a fucking point. He's obviously committing actual murder, like, very obviously.
Oh my god, I would like to talk about this for days. Like, it's so ridiculous, the marketing, how they're like, but is Jigsaw the bad guy? And it was so like, fucking yes!
Really, this guy doesn't appreciate life so much as this, private investigator who's doing his job because he needs to eat. He doesn't appreciate life. Lock him in a fucking room and slam the door shut behind him.
Can we also talk about how after one specifically, Jigsaw is a omnipotent god among men?
He's still kind of omnipotent in this. Like, some of the things they discover are really obvious and it takes them ages to work out, and sometimes it's like, how would you even think of this? And he knows 100% what he's gonna do.
Oh yeah, he knows exactly what every human that exists will do, every movement they will ever do.
It's true, and I mean, he can make anything because they reveal he's an engineer, which is an excuse.
Oh, he's an engineer, that means he can make all of these things.
He knows all.
It's
so... And I haven't even... Because I only stopped 4 is unbearable. I stopped halfway through it because it's as low rent as a film can get. That's a proper half-star movie. I didn't even properly get to Hoffman and all that.
Well, yeah, you've missed Hoffman. And then you missed the big series-wide twist of Lawrence coming back right at the end and being the bad guy the whole time and everything.
Oh no, I know. I never saw Saw 3D, but I followed it so closely, and I kind of, even before the film came out, I was like, well, obviously he's Jigsaw.
Yeah, I mean, it was the most obvious twist that had ever been a twist, but...
Was he suing them? And that's why he only got back in the last one?
Possibly, I'm not sure about that.
There was some legal trouble, I'm pretty sure.
It's blooming Carrie Yules, innit? Fucking Princess Bride guy.
I have no idea how to pronounce his last name.
Just kind of made a noise and hoped it stuck.
Carrie...
Yeah, that's perfect. That's how you do it.
I think we got to talk about James Wan. I mean, imagine being James Wan. You make this sort of low-budget horror film, basically an indie production. It's got a very tiny studio behind it, and now you're directing Fast and Furious, and you've made 2 other of the most successful horror franchises. I mean, The Conjuring has got to be the biggest horror franchise now, right? I googled it. He's the 8th most commercially successful director ever.
Oh my god!
He started in Saw,
and he did start with Saw, didn't it? And Saw's the only one he directed as well, isn't it? The first one.
Of the Saw franchise, yeah, it goes to Darren Lynn Bousman next, who did a film I fucking love, which we like it, a Repo of the Genius.
Oh, yes. And he did Devil's Carnival stuff as well, didn't he? Yeah.
Oh, I never saw the Devil's Carnival. I kind of wanted to.
Yeah, he's an interesting director. But he did your favorite Far, so he did what? So Far.
Yeah. So far, I mean, the directing's rubbish in all of the sequels. It's so funny because I remember James Wan being like, "Oh, I'm not really interested in kind of gore and torture and all that stuff," and he directed the first film in a franchise which just became torture porn. I think we got to talk about what became known as torture porn. In fact,
yeah,
because this changed horror for a decade.
That's the thing; it changed it. It brought on all of Hostel and everything, didn't it? It was the precursor to all of it.
I would be really surprised if they didn't watch Audition before this, and this is sort of parts of it are quite influenced by the last 15 minutes of Audition. And then it kind of goes a bit full circle, because Hostel was inspired by Saw, and Takashi Miike's got a cameo in Hostel.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean...
But, there was Wolf Creek.
Yeah, there's Wolf Creek, yeah.
As well, there's a lot of rubbish that I can't even remember the names of, that just sort of... It was, inundated at the time.
Yeah, because Saw made so much money. It was ridiculous. It made 150 times its budget or something, didn't it? Like, it's insane.
Like, the only comparison I can think of it is Halloween. Oh, and Paranormal Activity, which is kind of replaced, Saw the 2000s was torture porn because of Saw, and then the 2010s was found footage because of Paranormal Activity. And then the 80s was slashers because of Halloween.
Yeah, exactly. It's literally the biggest films of all time, isn't it? It is up there, and just, if you were to look at culture as a whole, Saw is just up there in cinema.
Oh, absolutely. And are you surprised this got as big as it did? Because, I mean, mainstream audiences would not have seen anything like this at the time. But also, like, it is so, like, dingy and nasty. Like, on just an objective filmmaking level, it still is pretty dank, pretty grungy, pretty nasty. It was meant to go straight to DVD. It looks like it goes straight to DVD, or maybe even video back then, but no, DVD. But they were like, oh no, this is good, release it in cinemas. Yeah. So I don't even know if they could have imagined what would have happened.
Yeah, watched it again. I'm super surprised it got as big as it did. Like, it looks like a Nen video.
Funny because Fear Factory did a music video for Saw.
Oh.
Fear Factory had a song which they used Saw in the music video as cross promotion.
That makes so much sense.
I was watching the behind the scenes featurette on the DVD, and when James Wan pops up for the interview, I mean, I just laughed because he looks like he belongs in, like, around the Fur era Deftones. Like, I'm like, wow, yeah, this doesn't surprise me.
Just looks like Chino completely.
Doesn't look like Chino, but he just, like, his style, like, he had, like, dyed pink tips and a leather jacket. I'm like, yep, this is the new metal
the most
era.
new metal thing of all time. Like, have you ever seen the...
which, as we learned from the Woodstock 99 documentary, caused a riot.
New metal, the most riot-inducing music of all time. Have you seen the short film that they did? That was like the proof of concept?
I haven't actually.
No, I've not. I was hoping you had. Because I know it's on like... all like uncut DVDs and stuff like that. Because it sounds interesting, but I feel like...
It's not on mine. I looked
Really?
for it.
Because I feel like it'd just be like
mine's the
I feel like it'd just be like a trap or something. Like,
it's like two guys in a room talking. Basically.
Oh, is it? So it's just like
from what I hear, and then there are flashbacks. I mean, like, it's not alone in this as getting the money for it. This is what Evil Dead did as well, and the Evil Dead proof of concept is like so dingy.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's crazy what you can do on that budget for the Evil Dead one, especially. You know what I noticed as well in this? Or I didn't really notice because I'm pretty bad with faces, but my girlfriend did. How many people are in Lost in this?
Oh, there's a ton, isn't there? Like, Zep's in it. Yeah. Zep's the main one that I can think of.
Who goes completely evil. He's a normal dude, and is apparently so, and just becomes like a criminal mastermind. Well, not even a mastermind, just a really evil person.
Who else is in Lost?
Gordon's wife's in Lost.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah, there's just a load of them in there.
I mean, I've literally seen the first season of Lost back when it aired, and that's it. So this is, like, going on hazy memories.
There's a ton of Saw characters. Oh my god, there's so many Saw characters.
What an insane film this is. I gotta say, though, like, I think if anyone's listening who never bothered to watch this, and, like, isn't our age for whatever reason... Which I'd be quite surprised if anyone bar my parents are listening to this who aren't, at least in their 20s. You probably missed the boat on Saw.
Yeah, definitely. It was such a moment in time. It was such a, like, when I was at school, definitely such a playground thing. Like, people talking about how fucked up it was.
Well, do you remember I don't know if this was outside of London, because... It was the bus adverts, but the bus adverts for Saw 4, it just had a big logo saying censored. And I remember people being like, did you see they censored the bus adverts? I'm like, they clearly didn't. It's just a marketing ploy. And it clearly worked. They're under no illusion that kids are watching these films. I mean, the Friday 13th people never were either. They're under no illusions that the target market for these films and the people who very much intersects below people who can go to films with an 18 rating.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it?
They're well aware it's teenagers to
Yeah,
their
it's
20s.
hilarious where they're like always market to teens, but it's a hard 18 film to like.
I mean, especially the later ones, they do become like gore porn,
Oh,
basically.
yeah.
Like, it just gets silly. But they have no impact. This has more impact than 3 does.
Oh yeah, massively. I mean, it's weird, isn't it? Like the first one is like you'll see a few traps, but it's like the police going to investigate them and stuff, and then you see the flashback of it. Whereas like
You see the aftermath. I mean, it's quite similar to 7.
yeah, it's a lot like 7. It gives me very 7 vibes, but not quite as dreary as 7.
It's definitely the primary influence.
Yeah,
in it.
yeah. But then the later ones are all like somebody running through a gauntlet of traps every time, and like the main focus is now how insane a way can we kill people.
Oh, you've smoked, now you have to drown.
You knew a man who was bad. Here, die. Have half your leg cut off. Like
Another part of the bullshit is he always gives you a chance. No, he doesn't. The dead cellmate, when Amanda's doing the reverse bear trap, no chance. The dude who had to walk through the wire, no chance. Adam, no chance.
Yeah, exactly. Where they try and pull this bullshit, where it's like you'll always have a chance to live again.
He makes you
It makes you appreciate
life.
life. It's like nobody ever gets out. The only one who does is like Amanda, and she's a crazy person. Like she's a
Talking about like iconic lines, like, I want to play a game and all that, but it's also he doesn't want us to cut through the chains, and he's technically speaking not a murderer. He doesn't kill people. He just gives them the choice. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. Like, it's a smart movie in the story structure, and it trusts the audience to keep following this plot, but it is a very dumb smart movie. I don't mean that as like a bad thing. I think it's perfectly good for what it is, but it's so ridiculous at points.
Oh yeah, I think I love the idea that he doesn't kill people. No, he just kidnaps them and makes them die. Like that's not killing people. Like
he just kidnaps them, chains them up in a room with a locked door, and puts someone in who he's told to kill him or he'll murder his family. But he gave him a chance. He really gave him a chance.
Oh, it's.
Maybe he'll appreciate life. What did Adam do again? Why was he not appreciating life?
That is so weird, isn't it? Like, Adam was just a private investigator and he ended up dead. Like,
I wonder if behind the scenes they were like, hey, Lee Winnell, can you bring the character back? And he's just like, no. I like how Lee Winnell is now doing kind of B-movies again. Like, he did Upgrade and whatnot, whereas James Wan is now, like, just a Hollywood, James Wan can direct a movie well, get James Wan.
oh, well, yeah. Like, James Wan just does the big films now, doesn't he? Like, he's like the Hollywood darling at the moment. Like,
I don't know if going darling, but he's clearly a eminent professional.
yeah, definitely. What was...
Like, he's the kind of person who might receive a Lifetime Achievement Award at some point.
Yeah, I mean, he did what, like, the new Conjuring, and then he's doing the new Aquaman, and he did Aquaman before.
Yeah, he did Aquaman, yeah.
Are you excited?
I mean, like, they could have easily turned out like the Blair Witch people.
That's true, and just did nothing. Like,
Was it Lovely Molly or something? It was like, middling.
I've not even heard of that before, you know? Like,
Oh, that was one of them Blair Witch people did after the Blair Witch, and it was so, like, generic. It had, like, a portion of it was found footage. It kind of missed the found footage boom.
fair enough. Are you excited for Saw 10?
Oh, God. I have to see Spiral. I do want to see Spiral. It's gotten, like, such mixed reaction. I'm kind of curious. I hear it's kind of like a soft reboot, like Jigsaw. The timeline is now, they don't put really complicated shit in it that you need to have seen the previous films for, is what I hear.
That's good. And I do like Chris Rock.
It's weird, though, because I read an interview with him, and he said he wanted to make it like the 48 hours, but saw it, and I thought, okay, that's new. But everyone who's seen it is like, no, it's really quite seriously toned.
Yeah, it's supposed to be super seriously toned. I mean, it didn't get incredible reviews, did it? Like,
No. How did it do at the cinema that you work at? Because, I mean, it was the first film out, like, literally. It's a clever first film to
nothing
do.
special. Like, some screenings were like, okay. amount of people, but it didn't last at all as well.
Like, I mean, I like fully intended to see it and kind of just never
Yeah, same,
did.
and I get it for free, and I never even went and saw it.
So, shall we final thoughts on Saw 1, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard thing to put any final thoughts on. Everybody, I absolutely believe everybody who's listening to this has seen Saw. Like, they all have the final thoughts, and
Do you see Saw?
they've seen Saw. Like, it's the most iconic film franchise in a very long time. Like, everybody knows the lines, everybody knows the characters and the traps. Everybody's seen Saw. My final thoughts are, the first one is actually a great movie, fantastic twist. It's a great and, like, flawed movie, but it's still a fantastic movie.
I would say that divorcing Saw from the general pop culture is a above average, low budget. It does feel straight to DVD, even though it did go to cinemas. Poor acting, cliched writing, but very good storytelling, good directing. It's quite intense. It's very imaginative. Quite a good film. Would recommend, but not tell people to kind of run out and go see it, I guess. I'd be like, yeah, go watch this. It's pretty intense at points. Like, the final chase is, like, heart-pounding stuff still, and the twist is outstanding. But you can't talk about Saw, as we haven't been able to, without talking about what it did to horror, and what it did to the pop culture, and how every line is memorable, and how the sound effects. That when Adam's, like, about to be kidnapped by the pig guy, and, like, the like laugh is playing. I was like, fuck. That laugh was just everywhere. Like, before you'd even seen the Saw films, because I was still fairly young when they started coming out. I mean, very young, in fact. All this stuff was thereabouts. It's amazing what it did to pop culture. It's amazing what it did to horror, even though, I mean, Wolf Creek's kind of fine, but, like, was there another good film like this?
No, I don't think so.
Post-Saw? No. Like, it changed, some might say ruined horror for a decade. But it was such an unbelievable moment. Lasted 7 films. Like, it made it to the 3D craze.
It did make it to the 3D craze.
Like that brief period when everything was in 3D and we were repeatedly told again it was the future of cinema, and teenage me was like, of course it's not.
I remember so many people telling me that everything was going to be in 3D, and I was like, yeah, of course.
I remember Shark Boy and Lava Girl. When that turned everything. Like, yeah, it's just, it's an amazing time capsule, and it's a very important film in horror. And I mean, if you're into horror, you've seen this film, because it's like Halloween or Friday or anything of that ilk. But, like, this is a artifact, an incredibly important historic horror and just general pop culture film artifact, and ultimately doesn't matter its flaws.
Yep,
that's what
definitely
the takeaway from Saw is, I guess. So what are we doing next week, Dom?
Next week we're gonna do we're going from, like, the most famously watched film of all time to one of the hardest films in this country to watch.
It's so true. Oh my god.
We're gonna be watching. Yeah. We're gonna be watching The Devils.
Ken Russell's The Devils. And I think this is the first film in this podcast so far that neither of us have seen before, and we both kind of really should have seen.
Yeah,
this.
very much. So we are excited, and I loved the cameo in Space Jam, so I'm excited now.
Oh, mate, if only Jigsaw was Warner Brothers, then it would have been in Space Jam.
So we could have had a Space Jam episode.
My name is Ali G. De Rhythm, and I want to play a game.
Oh my god.
CGI ripped Don Cheadle is more terrifying than anything in this film. Well, on that note, see you next week. You've been listening to the Extreme Cinema Podcast with Alexander Sternberg and Dom Loach. If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider subscribing, as it really helps us out. The original artwork for the podcast was done by George Arnold. The Extreme Cinema Podcast, available where all good podcasts are available.